And welcome to the Irv Homer Show here, ladies and gentlemen, on broadcasting from IrvHomer.com. Yes, it is true that I am coming out of semi-retirement, and through the good graces of the owners of WBCB Radio 1490 AM in Levittown, Pennsylvania, I will be doing an hour show from 1 to 2 following Pat Wanley and Speak Your Piece. And I believe that Speak Your Piece is one of the oldest running talk formats in the country. And I figured it's, well, through mutual agreement of the owners of WBCB, Pat Dion, Mr. Pat Dion, who we've disagreed on many times in the past, but have always never managed to make it personal. I thank Pat for his consideration, and also for Merrill Reese, who is also one of the owners. You know Merrill as the voice of the Eagles and has been a dear friend for many, many years in my broadcast career. And of course, much to the dismay of many people who found out about it, who called in to Speak Your Piece and said, "Oh my God, is he going to be back again?" Well, it's a different Irv Homer. I'm the same person with the same ideas, but it may be a different type of format because I'm not the contentious, cantankerous guy that was on radio before. I think things are too serious right now, ladies and gentlemen, to get into a confrontation with people with different ideas or opinions than yours. However, it will require a lot of straightening out. And for some reason or other, I don't know why people pick out little things of either broadcasts or ideas or opinions and then extrapolate and make it sound as if, well, that's his belief and that's his idea and I don't care about him. And that you become a victim of that type of thing. And for those people who don't want to sit and listen and understand a person's particular position, I really don't give a damn whether you like it or not. It just declares to me that when I hear you call other programs how ignorant and how stupid you really are. I'll give you an example. The one is the tragic death of Officer Danny Faulkner, in which my former newsman, who I know personally, Mumia Abu Jamal, has been sitting in prison for some 30 years, 25 years, whenever it happened. And people pass opinions of things that they know nothing about. And once again, I will relate it because advertising and repetition is what makes the things in the people's head. The five blind men of Hindustan trying to describe an elephant. One grabs the tail of the elephant, says an elephant's like a rope. The other one grabs the leg of an elephant and says, no, an elephant's like a tree. The other grabs the snout of the elephant and says, no, an elephant's like a hose. The other one grabs its ear and says, no, it's like a fan. The other one grabs his tail and he says, no, an elephant is like a rope. Well, all five blind men are right. The only problem is they've never seen the elephant. And so when I say something over the years, whether it's on WBCB or here on this format or at WWDB, it was backed by personal knowledge and personal information and personal involvement. And as I said, Mumia was my newsman. He was also a Black Panther, and you know the whole story if you followed it. He was found guilty of killing Officer Daniel Faulkner. There have been chapter and verse written about him and books written about him and some people's entire broadcast career on the death of Officer Danny Faulkner. And one in particular, one broadcaster in particular, for those of you who claim that I am a MOVE member and I am a supporter of the death of Danny Faulkner, it's not going to make any difference because I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I just want to clear it up for people who may not understand my position. I have met with the MOVE people. I've been in the MOVE people's houses. I've had 3 of them in my home on a personal interview because they didn't want me to go into their neighborhood. And I know these people, and I know what the conditions were, and I knew what happened. That doesn't mean I'm a supporter of the MOVE people. I'm a supporter of justice. And if I don't support the justice for the MOVE people, or for Neil Ferber, or for police officers who have been victimized by the police department, then you don't have a chance of being protected if in fact you're ever accused of something that you didn't do. And it's one of the reasons that I enjoy the respect of most police departments and also by some of the so-called radicals that some of you people have accused me of being members of. And I can only say this about Mumia Abu Jamal. Why hasn't he been executed yet? If the evidence against Mumia was so overwhelming and so compelling of killing Officer Danny Faulkner, how come he has not been executed? Other people have been executed since then. And are the lawyers who prosecuted Mumia Abu Jamal and the judges that reviewed his case, are they inadequate that defense attorneys could manage to sustain the death penalty, make sure that the court had imposed a life sentence on him without parole? So if you ignoramuses out there who consider me to be a supporter of Mumia Abu Jamal, and I'll repeat this on WBCB on Monday, December the 1st when I start broadcasting there again. If you're that ignorant and that stupid that you don't want to know from someone who has been personally involved with just about every radical terrorist on the East Coast, that's me, then it is your blatant ignorance that I can't stand. I will not support advocating the release of Mumia Abu Jamal until he personally tells me that he did not kill Daniel Faulkner. Now, the MOVE people know that. And until such time as he admits to me, and I've been in contact with him over the years, not recently, but over the years, and I don't want to hear Mumia as political rhetoric, and I don't want to hear about how bad the system is and how racist we are. I only want to know one thing from Mumia Abu Jamal, as did Neil Ferber. When Neil Ferber told me that he didn't kill Steve Boris, and I investigated the case, that's when I went to bat to get him off death row, and did. Now, if you knuckleheads who sit and criticize people like me on the air and in the press have never been involved, have never been in a death row at Graterford Prison to see what it's like, then don't declare your ignorance in public, especially to people like me who have been on death row, who have seen what it's like on death row, to see that the prisons are not these country clubs that you claim they are. And after careful investigation and research, and placing myself and my family at risk for taking up the cause of somebody who I feel may have been unjustly accused, then you've got a lot to learn and grow up as to what America's all about. And I really feel sorry. At one time I used to get angry. Now I feel sorry for you ignoramuses. I really do. Because ignorant people like you could live under communism, under fascism, under socialism, under any ism there is. Because you don't know the facts, you don't care to know the facts, and if you did, the facts ever hit you in the head, you'd be too dumb to recognize that they are the facts. Then you deserve the blatant ignorance that you swallow in. And that's your problem, not my problem. I know that my conscience is clear as to who I support and who I don't support. If there's something wrong with our justice system, in which the tragedy just occurred to this guy from Bucks County, from Levittown, Pennsylvania, incidentally, where I'll be broadcasting from starting December the 1st. He's your neighbor in Levittown. You people in Levittown are such law and order people. How come you let this guy run around with, 20 arrests and spent most of his time in prison to a point where he actually ended up killing a sergeant, a police officer this week in Philadelphia? If you people in Levittown were more politically involved and more concerned about your community, this guy would have been off the streets. No. You live in your little enclaves in Levittown, you live in your little enclaves in Philadelphia, you live in your enclaves, and then all of a sudden somebody gets killed, and then you're all outraged. But he was a Levittowner. You people in Levittown proud about this guy that killed the Philadelphia police officer? You won't talk about that, though. You'll criticize people like me. You'll criticize people like Obama. You'll criticize people like John McCain. But you're empty-headed knuckleheads. And people like you frighten me. People like you frighten me. Because you could live under a dictator and have no problems whatsoever. So that's a classic example, ladies and gentlemen, of the type of viewership over the years and listeners that I've managed to attract that criticize me. Well, it doesn't make any difference because my conscience is clear. Now, what you have to do with your ignorance is to clear your own conscience because you're the stupid ones, not me. I don't know how long I'll be at WBCB. I may not want to do it. I may try it for a month and say, look, guys, I wish you well. I've heard comments, well, he's too old, he's too this. I've heard all the comments on Pat's show. So I listened to Pat. I wanted to hear what the reaction would be. But I don't see any brilliant or genius. What is your claim to fame? What the heck have you ever done in your community to make Levittown or Bristol or Bensalem or Feasterville? What have you done to make it a better community? Anything? Other than shoot your mouth off and speak your piece? Or shoot your mouth off on some other radio station? What have you ever been personally involved in? You ever met with killers? You ever been in prison? You ever been in a gang fight? You ever been in the riots in Philadelphia and Trenton when the riots were there? I did. So when I speak from experience, I'm speaking from experience. Were you in the military? Were you in combat? I was. You put your record up against mine, and if your record is better than mine over the years, I will bow to you, apologize to you, and salute you. But until your record of community involvement matches mine, you just keep your mouth shut unless you have something activating your brain. And that's why I'll be back on the air at WBCB. My conscience is clear. My knowledge of information of what I've been involved in my life is well-rounded. And my question to you is yours. Well, I think I've taken enough time with that. We have a chat room, ladies and gentlemen, that you can get involved on right now. And you know how to get on the chat room. Ask questions, question what's going on. If I know the answer, I'll be more than glad to tell you. If I don't, I'll just say, look, this is my opinion. We also have a telephone number that you can call in, and that number is 215-253-8877. 215-253-8877. That line is available for you to call in. The chat room is available for questions or comments. And of course, I want to thank those folks who have sent email thanking me for getting back on the air. Hopefully they'll be listening and tuning in to WBCB, and some sponsors will join us on that radio station. Once again, my name is Irv Homer. Yes, I'm an old broadcaster, but a young brain, a brain that I thank God for has given me the opportunity to keep it engaged all these years. My brain is connected to my mouth, and so you hear what I'm thinking. We're broadcasting from irvhomer.com. My website is www.irvhomer.com, and email is evilirv@irvhomer.com. evilirv@irvhomer.com. And I want to congratulate my son Ron for putting together this format, and also will be accompanying me at WBCB, where we will be streaming this at the same time from 1 to 2 on the air. So we will be changing the time of the broadcast from 6 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to 1 o'clock 5 days a week, including remote broadcasts that we'll be doing around the Delaware Valley area. And of course, he runs RGH Computer Services for all your computer needs. You just simply give him a call at 2, or the office a call at 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685. Once again, the chat room is open for your questions or comments. We do apologize. We expected John DePremio of Citizens for Common Sense to be our guest this evening, but John is not feeling well, and we hope he recuperates, because he's always interesting and informative when he accompanies me on the program. This Friday night, I have to attend a banquet, and Friday evening, in which Bill Camel, the voice of the Philadelphia sports teams, a gentleman in the truest sense of the word in the broadcasting industry, a gentleman true in the sense of the word, off microphone, off camera, will be getting the Man of the Year award. Well deserved by the broadcast pioneers. And as a personal tribute to Bill Camel and his lovely wife, Ron and I will be attending the banquet at the Ballot Country Club, and I wouldn't miss that show for the world. On our chat room, we have a question, and it is, Irv, can you explain the fairness doctrine? Sean Hannity, who was on WPHT from 12 to 3, no, 3 to 6, seems to think it will be the end of the world for him, Barbara of Feasterville, Pennsylvania. I think I spent on one of the archives, if you go back to the archive, Barbara, one of the archives in which I did about 20 minutes on the fairness doctrine. I don't know what the nuances of the new fairness doctrine is, but I remember working under the old fairness doctrine. Number one, it wasn't fair, and number two, it wasn't a doctrine. So the whole thing that the Sean Hannity's of radio, talk radio today, are shouting about is neither fair nor a doctrine. The fairness doctrine, allegedly, and why it was a fraud then and why it will probably be a fraud now, is that how do you give the public who owns the airwaves, that's my dog. My dog is part of the program. How do you tell the audience what's fair and what's not fair? For example, if you have an all music station and you have to be fair, does that mean that you have to play a certain amount of talk radio on a radio? If a radio station plays rock, should they be required to play symphony? So how do you determine what is fair broadcasting, what is fair? Fairness in the doctrine theory is based on opinions or attitudes of the person who controls the microphone at that time. And I can only relate what it was like working under the fairness doctrine. The fairness doctrine, you could not attack someone personally unless you gave them an opportunity to respond. So if I would attack Barack Obama, I would have to give him equal time to respond to the attack that I made. The problem was with the fairness doctrine at that time, if Barack Obama would not respond, the public didn't know that, so I violated the fairness doctrine. Now, where the problem comes in with today's commercialized broadcasting of talk radio is that it is not, and it's difficult to explain because people who are locked into the Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannitys and the Michael Medvids and the Michael Savages and the Mike Gallaghers, you're so locked into those people that they're your God. They are the new Jim Jones of radio. They are the new Pope of radio. They are the people that you idolize, that you worship. But you don't look at the fairness of their broadcasting on the allegation. Well, you have an opportunity to call in and challenge what they say. It happens to be a lie. And it is not the broadcaster, whether it be on the liberal side, on the network news, or on the conservative side, on the syndicated radio, that the moderator himself is a spokesperson for any particular political party. And if you think it's fair that Hannity or Limbaugh or Medved or the names that I mentioned and others can be on 600 radio stations throughout the country and represent the Republican Party and John McCain and Sarah Palin 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, if you think that's fair, then you better be careful, because they may turn around and become liberals. And you would be outraged if the Al Frankens or the Sharptons or Jesse Jackson or any of them became syndicated broadcasters. So let's talk about what's fair about commercial radio, talk radio today. Is there one black on syndicated radio anywhere in the country? Name me one black broadcaster, liberal or conservative, that is in the broadcasting franchised 600, 300 radio stations. There is none. Is Sean Hannity black? No. Is Rush Limbaugh black? No. Do they have black guests on to share the microphone with them? No. Is Michael Medved? No. Michael Medved is a self-hating Jew. Mike Gallagher is a right-wing nutcase. So where is this fairness in broadcasting? Where is the fairness on WPHT, the 50,000 watt big talker in Philadelphia that does not have one full-time woman broadcaster? They've got some gal on Sunday for 2 hours who's handed a script as to what to say, because the program director gives you a slip and says, these are the topics for today. And Lynn, don't tell me they don't do that, because I work there and that's what they do. So she answers to what the program director wants. Name me one female broadcaster on WPHT or one black. Now, I would consider that to be unfair. Do you? How does a radio station with 50,000 watts of power in the fourth market in the country that generates millions of dollars of revenue have the nerve to say that they're fair without one full-time woman and one full-time black? If you can answer that to me on the chat room or on the telephone, I will treat you to the best meal in town. Now, I would suggest you read what the FCC's job is to do and why licensed broadcasters are given licenses to serve the public interest. Well, when you have a population like blacks, I don't refer to them African Americans because I know many blacks that are from Central and South America. They resent being called African Americans. They're Central and South American blacks. They're not Africans. That's another story for another program. But if I were a black in Philadelphia and I'm listening to a radio station that tell me that they're against the fairness doctrine, I'd be screaming at the radio, why isn't there a black moderator on WPHT? Some of the sports stations do have black broadcasters, from what I understand. I'm not a big sports follower on sports radio, but I'm sure WIP, Ron, does WIP have black full-time help?
Yeah,
I'm sure they do. And so this is why like Sean Hannity's are scared. They're not going to take Sean Hannity off the air, but they're going to make him be more objective than what he is. And I've said many, many times, why would a broadcaster want you, the listeners or the viewers, to know who I vote for? It is none of your business. And it's none of my business who Charles Gibson is going to vote for, who Dan Rather was going to vote for, who Walter Cronkite's going to vote for, who anybody else on radio. It's none of my business, and it's none of your business who they vote for. But I'm tired of listening for 8 years under Bill Clinton, of bashing Bill Clinton because they were Republican conservatives on the air, and then tired of 8 years of apologizing for the nitwit that's the President of the United States now. And thank God by January the 20th, he'll be gone. And they're still beating up Clinton. If Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton died tomorrow in a mutual train accident or an airplane accident, these guys would lose 1/3 of their programming. If the Clintons would disappear from the face of the earth, they'd probably pick on Chelsea to find out whether or not she's still a virgin. Now, you call that fair broadcasting? I don't. I will support the underdog as long as the underdog is truthful. As I've said, I've supported cops who were crucified by the Philadelphia Police Department, 2 of them under Frank Rizzo, who Rizzo went after because they had the nerve to stand up and say what you wanted us to do is wrong, and they did otherwise, and they were put on some damn highway patrol guarding pigeons in Eastwick. But I will hang a bad cop if I can. But if a cop is accused of something that he didn't do, and I don't give a damn if the police department, the attorney general, or the Supreme Court says he's wrong, I will introduce the facts and say this cop is right. But I'd like to hear that type of broadcasting on the Hannity program, Barbara, that he's afraid of the fairness doctrine. Big, brave man, he's afraid of the fairness doctrine. He's afraid of spitting his own venom of this phony conservatism of his and this phony Republican of his, because he built a career on fear of the liberals, fear of the communists, fear of the terrorists. And if you study the history of fascism under Adolf Hitler, you will understand that Joseph Goebbels, who was the chief of propaganda under Nazism, taught two things. You teach somebody fear one day and you teach them hatred the next day, and on the third day you've already converted them to be a follower. So in Germany it was the Jews. Fear the Jews. They're going to steal from you. The next day, hate them because of the fear. What happened? They ended up in here. Well, Hannity is a classic example, and so is Limbaugh, of the typical Joseph Goebbels propagandist of the Nazi Party of Germany. Hate the liberals one day, fear the liberals the next day. They're going to take your money. They're going to share the wealth. They're going to raise your taxes. They're going to put your grandmother in prison. You hear this fear and hatred every goddamn day. And God don't mind if I use his words. So until God strikes me down dead, I will use the language I want to. So as long as they teach you hate and fear enough, you'll eventually want to kill these damn liberals. Used to be communists. Now it's the liberal Democrats. So that's the big deal. Irv, I remember a long time ago when you were on WWDB, you had a show regarding getting out of speeding tickets. If memory serves me right, that had something to do with the U.S. Code. Also, if time permits, can you talk about the time you paid for a ticket with potatoes as legal tender? Mike in Pennsville. Well, if you read the U.S. Code, and Peggy Christensen, whose driver's license I have a copy of in my file, Peggy Christensen has proven that you do not need a state driver's license. Because under the U.S. Code, which gives an American citizen the right of freedom of access, a state by federal law cannot impose upon you a driver's license that will make you legal to drive with a Pennsylvania license in the state of New Jersey. You as an American citizen, and Peggy Christensen has tried, she's the head of the Golden Means Society, if you want to check into it. Peggy, who I know personally, and I've seen her drive, and she drives around with it and challenges any police officer to arrest her for not having, quote, a valid California driver's license. And think about it. The Constitution of the United States gives any American citizen the freedom of access to all 50 states. And no state can impose a restriction on your right to travel. So that under the U.S. Code, what Peggy Christensen has done, she has prepared her own driver's license, quoting the U.S. Code, stating specifically that as an American citizen, no state can require her to have a driver's license that would impede her right to travel from one state to the other, even if it is revoked. Now, is she for speed limits? Of course she's for speed limits. Is she for common sense of stopping at a red light? Of course it is. But under no U.S. code can you lose your driver's license that will prevent you from traveling from one state to the other or driving your vehicle. You can be arrested, incarcerated, charged with an accident, traffic violation, parking violation. The driver's license cannot be used as punishment for committing a crime or a felony. Also, if time permits, can you talk about the time you paid for a ticket with potatoes as legal tender? It wasn't me, it was my friend Dick Solium in the state of Maryland. Pennsylvania's Constitution, which many people don't know, said that you can only pay Pennsylvania debt with gold or silver. They've never revised the Pennsylvania Constitution. And they never revised it in most of the states around the country. Well, in the state of Maryland, you must pay all state fines with either gold or silver, or some medium of exchange comparable to what the value of gold or silver was. Well, when they took the gold off the gold standard, they never took silver off. For example, if you write to the Secretary of Treasury right now and ask him what a dollar is, which nobody knows, but you don't know what a dollar is, they will send you a notice from the U.S. Treasury that a dollar is 4.381 ounces of silver. That's what it says. Now, the United States Treasury tells you what a dollar is in silver. So when Dick got a traffic ticket in Maryland, they wouldn't accept it. He said, "Well, you would accept, how much silver do you want?" And the magistrate said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the Maryland Constitution says I have to pay it in silver. So what do I pay it in?" He said, "Well, that also says I can pay it in anything comparable to a dollar in silver." So he says, "I have 15 pounds of potatoes outside. Will you accept that in lieu of the silver that you're not going to take in the first place?" The judge says, "You want to know something? Until I can figure out what the money issue is, you're dismissed. Forget the ticket," and Dick walked out. Now, it is illegal in the state of Pennsylvania to pay any state fine, according to the United States Constitution, unless you pay it in silver or something valued for the price of silver. So you can take potatoes, carrots, onions, whatever you want, comparable to the price of silver, and pay a fine with it. Now, most magistrates or justice peace A don't know it. And second of all, they've decided to just waive it, and most people will just pay and forget about it. On our chat room, it says, "What about Chuck Williams on WPHT, a black big talker who has a very liberal bent, George and Horsham?" Number one, I've never heard of Chuck Williams. I don't listen to WPHT except for comic relief. And does he have a program on prime time between 9 in the morning and 6 o'clock at night? And if this is the guy I'm thinking of, and I don't know the gentleman, probably is a liberal bent, whatever being bent liberal is. I don't know what that means, George and Horsham. But I do believe he shares his spot with someone else, doesn't he? Someone on the conservative bent. So Chuck Williams isn't a full-time broadcaster, making his sole existence living on PHT. He's not a Dom Giordano. He doesn't have the Hannity time slot. He doesn't have the Glenn Beck time slot. He doesn't have the Rush Limbaugh time slot. So maybe somebody got to WPHT and said Homer's shooting his mouth off about having a token black on the station. So maybe they know something that the rest of the stations don't know. But if Chuck Williams is there and he is black and he speaks on the black issues, I think it's a move in the right direction, but I would like to see more syndicated blacks on 600 radio stations.
He's on, if it's what you're thinking about, he's on with someone else. He's on from midnight to, 10 p.m. to midnight.
Well, 10 p.m. to midnight is known as the graveyard shift.
Grimaldi?
Talk radio can only generate revenue from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. After 6 o'clock at night, forget it. It generates, they get what is known as bonus spots. In other words, they will sell you time during the prime time on radio from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. Then you'll buy 13 weeks on the prime time, and they'll give you 3 or 4 bonuses for nothing to give you some advertising. They don't generate any revenue, and second of all, their ratings don't mean anything because after 6 o'clock at night, radio stations are not monitored anyway as far as ratings are concerned. So congratulations to Chuck Williams, and hopefully he'll be syndicated like Rush Limbaugh. But I'm talking about syndicated black talk show hosts. And PHT is the one who carries the most syndication next to that idiot station 990, whatever they're supposed to be doing over there. They don't even show up in the rating books, but they're all conservatives over there too. Our telephone number, once again, is 215-253-8877. My name is Irv Homer. And starting on December the 1st, Monday at 1 o'clock, we will be bringing this type of simulcast with WBCB in Levittown, Pennsylvania, where the program will be live, also be streamed on this Irv Homer network here. So that will be starting 1 o'clock on December the 1st on Monday. That's WBCB 1490 AM. I had made a prediction, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, please, I am not an investment broker. I study the market as much as I can as an amateur, and I can read the handwriting on the wall. I made a prediction, I think it was on Friday night, was it, Ron?
Yeah.
I said the market after January the 20th, when Barack Obama gets sworn in, will go to about 6,500. When the market was 14,000 and I predicted it would take a bath, I was listening to the financial whiz-bangs on radio and television, and that crazy guy on Mad Money, and Cordasco was talking about how evil annuities were. And now if you listen to Cordasco, all of a sudden he's for annuities. So you got to remember most people don't remember what they say. I do. I have a photographic memory, and I remember what these guys say. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, the market closed at 79.9728, below 8,000. Now, you talk to your investment brokers. I'm not investing your money. I don't know how much money you have, and I don't care. But from the indications of what real money is in the market, because we have fake money as it is, I predict the market will be about 6,500 right after January the 20th, when Barack Obama becomes inaugurated. And speaking of this inauguration, this is not going to be an inauguration, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a coronation. I mean, they're complaining about the private jets that were flown in by the executives of the three major automobile companies. And I will tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet. You're going to see more money spent on this inauguration of Barack Obama than you will ever see in the history of this country. There's 1 million people going to be there. There'll be parties. There'll be a celebration. This is going to be unbelievable. I don't think the day the slaves were freed, they're going to have that much demonstrations throughout the country. And the cost of security for this inauguration around the country, not only in Washington, D.C., excuse me, but around the country. If the stupid Phillies can generate the riotous that they did in Philadelphia, think what's going to happen when almost 50% of the population in Philadelphia is black, and one of their boys are sworn in as the President of the United States. Good gravy, Miss Molly, it's going to be hell to pay. Our chat room is open for your questions, and also our telephone number, 215-253-8877, 215-253-8877. I had mentioned that the price of gasoline is down to $2.05 on the corner of where I buy my gasoline now, and I understand there are parts of Philadelphia where gasoline is less than $2 a gallon. I still maintain, as I looked at the stock market and said the market will go below 7,000, and it closed today at 79.9728. I predict that gasoline will be this cheap until all the alternative energy companies, including T-Bone Pickens, will be driven into bankruptcy. Now, there's euphoria throughout the land right now on the low cost of gasoline per gallon. That, in my opinion, is a conspiracy by the speculators of the oil industry, by the oil companies, to drop, because everybody, well, gas is $2 a gallon, $2.05 a gallon. What do I need alternative energy for? What do I need the Prius for? What do I need alternative power in my car? Let them make the Hummers. It's only $2 a gallon. What are you complaining about? So the investors who were looking forward to producing alternative energy, either in solar power or wind power or a revised engine, are losing their investors. Because when gas was $4 a gallon, everybody was saying, oh my God, we've got to have an alternative energy source. Well, these people are a lot smarter than us. The prices of gasoline didn't drop to $2 because they like you, or because with some mystery to some place that there's suddenly a flood of oil and all the refineries are making gasoline and blah, 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 blah. This is a design business decision, in my opinion, by the oil industry to drive the alternative energy companies out of business, lose their investors. If you follow them on the market, their stock went from $1.75 all the way up to $14. It is now down to penny stocks. You can buy alternative energy stock today for pennies. Let gasoline go up to $4. Let them drive all the alternative energy companies out of business, and you'll see gasoline go back up to $4 a gallon. We hear what a great competitive society we're in. I mentioned this on one of the previous programs. You try building an automobile to beat a General Motors car, a Ford car, a Chrysler car, and if you want to research, for you young folks out there, you research and see what happened to the Tucker automobile when Tucker came out with a car in opposition to General Motors. You got one company, General Motors. How many cars do they make? How can they lose in the automobile market? They make Chevys, Pontiacs, Cadillacs, Hummers. They make a gazillion automobiles. You want a car, you got to buy a General Motors car. Toyota makes one car, right? Different models. Toyota knocked their pants off. What the hell does General Motors have to make 90 million automobiles for and corner the market? They should go broke and make one good car out of all that crap that they've been selling us. Give me one good car with 15 different styles. General Motors can survive and the American public will be better off. I am not crying for the automobile companies. They have screwed the American public long enough. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, do you remember General Motors came out with a Chevrolet and they said, we have 100% steel in our automobiles. And I had a friend of mine, who's still a friend of mine, who was in the automobile repair business. And I said, is this an all-steel car that I have this Chevrolet? He says, no. I said, well, they're advertising that they use 100% steel. He says, well, they do. I said, well, explain it to me. General Motors took 1 inch of solid steel and put it in the right front fender. The rest of the car was an alloy. But the steel they used was 100% steel. And so they advertised, we use 100% steel in our Chevrolet. And the goofy public bought it thinking that they were driving an automobile made of steel. And this is part of the con game. When General Motors got caught putting Chevy engines in Oldsmobiles, it was the same engine that was in the Chevrolet that went into the Oldsmobile 98 and the Oldsmobile 88. Yet if you had a Chevy, you paid so much for replacement parts. If you had an Oldsmobile, you paid 3 times as much for the part when it was a Chevy part that they were putting in there. And if you went into the shop, they had a replacement book. The number for the Chevy was 0235. The replacement number that went into the Oldsmobile was 02175. It was the same damn part. It was the same engine. And General Motors made a damn fortune putting Chevrolet engines into the Oldsmobiles, and were just about ready to put them in the Cadillacs. Now, wouldn't you be happy driving a Cadillac with a Chevy engine? Make me happy as a pig in shit, I'm telling you. I mean, I would be so thrilled about the fact that I'm driving a Cadillac with a Chevy engine, I'd probably have an orgasm at every red light. But that's the crap that General Motors, and that's only part of the stories I could tell you about these automobile manufacturers. We bailed Chrysler out once. The taxpayers bailed Chrysler out once with $300 million, which is probably comparable today to about $25 billion. What the hell did they do with that bailout? Look how successful they've been. Now they're back again wanting another piece of the action. Can't you run the damn business right? And who the hell cares if Chrysler goes out of business? People will lose their jobs. What are we going to do? No, keep making crappy cars and keep borrowing money from the taxpayers and keep sticking it up our behinds. Gee, General Motors, you think they make money on the car that you're driving? Do you know what GMAC is? They own their own finance company. They sell you the car and then they finance it for you. and then they'll lease it for you, got their own leasing company. And then you can only get parts and service from the Chevrolet or the General Motors dealer. They got you every time you belch, fart, or sneeze. So Boobas America thinks, well, the Chevrolet, they do everything. It is a monopoly and control of the automobile industry. There's no free enterprise. There's no competition in the automobile industry. They should have gone bankrupt years ago when some genius come up with this thing called the Hummer. Who in the hell needs a Hummer? The streets in Philadelphia are not wide enough for a horse and wagon. General Motors makes a Hummer for Philadelphia's use. Are they crazy? Are they nuts? And now they have the unmitigated gall to fly into Washington on private jets to testify that we need money. Why did they take the bus and let the driving to us? See, if these guys had any sense, they'd have gone there by Greyhound with a torn suit and cop a plea in front of the public, in front of the guy. So look how poor we are. Look, I got an old J.C. Penney tie on. But the public, you'll be duped because gasoline is $2 a gallon and you're happy as a pig in crap. And the Eagles are going to lose, of course, this Sunday. But that's the big story. And that kind of boggles my mind. And the casinos are crying because they dropped 4%. I really feel sorry for the casinos in Atlantic City. I mean, my pals are really, I have to see the proctologist to get Donald Trump out of there. And people say, well, Irv, you know the casinos lost money? Isn't that awful? That's a shame. Yet my local bookmaker gets locked up for taking numbers in a tap room. I'm Irv Homer. Our telephone number is 215-253-8877. Your questions can be answered. I had gone through a list, ladies and gentlemen, of one issue, things that the president will have to be concerned about. But right now, I suppose the big issue is the economy. Well, a lot of you people are going to get wiped out. Take my word for it. It's going to be like World War I when a general came. I just got a message from the front. The rear's been wiped out. Well, your rear's going to get wiped out. They can't. This game has got to collapse. You can't put air in a balloon that's got a hole in it. And this country, thanks to President Bush and President Clinton and Boobas America, has blown this balloon up so far. I was talking to some folks yesterday in Levittown, and they said, well, what makes you I said, well, how can you take a home that is 40 years old, a Levittown house, that was built for $7,800, and it's now worth $175,000? What made that house worth $175,000 in 40 years? It's 40 years old. The house is 40 years old. It was built for $7,800. It sells now for $175,000. Don't you think there's a balloon someplace that inflated the price? That house today should be worth about maybe $75,000. And how did the American people get suckered? And I've screamed about this when I took on the Internal Revenue Service for many, many years. My favorite Gestapo KGB agent, the Internal Revenue Service. Some of you guys have recanted and have found God and have given up working for the biggest terrorist organization next to Al-Qaeda. You talk about Al-Qaeda. Most of you people would rather have your house bombed by Al-Qaeda than get a letter of audit from the IRS. Don't tell me how brave the brave American gets a letter of audit from the IRS. You crap yourself. You'd rather walk on chopped glass. Well, screw the IRS. I didn't spend 4 years getting my ass shot at by the Germans. They were about some pimp that got out of law school making $22,000 a year. Mr. Homer, did you fill out line 4? Up your ass, pal. These are the figures you get. You don't like it, put me in jail and keep me. But the average boobus is so damn afraid of the Internal Revenue Service, and so damn afraid of, they'll do anything. They sign their names, you name it, they'll do it. The first time that I appeared on Oprah Winfrey's show, and one of the things that made her close to me over the years, and I hear from her from time to time, probably get a season's greeting, because she's politically correct now. I used to get Christmas cards and Hanukkah cards from her. Now we get happy holiday cards. I guess she gave up celebrating Christmas. But it was in Chicago. In Chicago, you know, close to Detroit, she had a lot of viewers and people in the audience from Detroit. And a woman stood up and she said, well, she says, I have no sympathy for the automobile workers. They make $32 an hour. And the other boobus talk show host on the program, yeah, they make 30. I said, no, they don't. What do you mean, no, they don't? I said, the average automobile worker does not make $32 an hour. And I said, are there any automobile workers in the audience here? And a couple of women said, my husband's an automobile worker. I'm an automobile worker, yeah. Well, how much does your husband take home? He makes 30. Well, how much of that $32 does he actually bring home? Oh, about $26. Oh, so somewhere between the time that he made the $32 and the time he gets his check, he's only making $26 an hour. I said, well, what happened to the other money between the 32 and the 26? What happened to that money? Well, I don't know. I said, see, the ignorance of the American public when it comes to capitalism is that they think their income is your gross income. And so you will borrow money, you'll get credit cards on your gross income, you can get a mortgage on your gross income, you can buy or lease an automobile on your gross income, but your income is really the money that you get in your net pay that you can afford to spend. You can't spend the money that is confiscated from you by the Internal Revenue Service or the government or the state government or unemployment compensation or FICA or your Social Security or anything else. And this is where the American boobas, who is so afraid of communism but doesn't know the first damn thing about capitalism, got suckered by going into debt because they're living on their gross pay and not their net pay. And my closing of the program years ago used to be, have you looked at your paycheck lately? You see, gross is not the name of a Jewish butcher. Gross is what your boss gives you. Net is not a fishing thing. It is what you actually get to take home to feed your family and pay your bills with. And to this day, I still don't hear anybody telling the difference between a gross pay and net pay. Your net pay is what, when people used to say, what are you making? Oh, I thought my contract said my boss steals for the government every paycheck. So when we start teaching our kids about capitalism, which is a lie because there is no such thing as capitalism. I mentioned to you that there's capitalism all over the world. China, a communist country, has capitalism. People work and they get paid. Cuba has capitalism. People in Cuba work and they get paid, right? Of course I'm right. So you get scared by these buzzwords of these nutcases, these blowhards on radio. Hate and fear.
You got a phone call.
We have a phone call. Go ahead, sir or ma'am or whoever you may be.
Wait let me turn down my radio real quick. Or not radio, but speakers. Yeah, I work for, I'm looking at my pay stub right now. My gross earnings are like 63 for the year. And my net pay after I get ripped off from every government agency is $29,000. So I got to spend within my means, but I'm like happy to Philadelphia and the government can take all my money and they've been doing it for years. So I figure I'd get at least call in and say hello and appreciate like what you've done for many, many years. I've listened to you for at least 20.
Great, but you do know the difference between what your gross pay is and how much money you actually have to spend from that net figure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's why you're not in the hole, probably.
Well, I spent a few years in the hole. That was when I was a little bit younger and dumber. Now I'm a little bit older and dumber now, but just a little bit wiser.
Well, if you gain a little wisdom every year, consider yourself a plus. Thanks for calling, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, do it again. We go to the chat room. Granted, the big three automakers are crooks, but what happens to the economy if the auto industry in the U.S. fails and results in 3 million plus workers that will be out of employment? Bill of Feasterville. There will be a transition of the employees of the big three manufacturers to smaller, more competitive automobile companies that are waiting in the wings to replace the automobiles that are on the market today. That transition may take a short period of time. If the government is going to give them $25 billion to reproduce the same crap and the same con game they produced before, let them reimburse the employees who may be losing their job to retrain them with new skills for alternative energy sources. And that transitional investment in education for the unemployed automobile worker that may sustain him during the period of time in which his pension or whether his benefits, whatever, that can be used, that $25 billion can be used for that. We create a new transportation industry. We get rid of the trucks that are on the road and go back to the railroads. A railroad can carry 500 trucks on its back and cost 1/10 of it. Get rid of the damn highway fund. We don't need the truck drivers. Let them become engineers on the railroad system. Let them become engineers to build new tracks, to build new infrastructure, to rebuild railroad bridges. There's plenty of work to go around. It's just that we're working in the wrong area, my dear friend. So there will be no unemployment through a transition between education and implementation of the education and replacing this outdated damn automobile engine. We don't need it. It's outdated. It's costly. And people are losing their jobs and they're being hated. I don't want to hate any automobile guy that's working in a factory. I want him to be retrained into the 21st century to educate the new means of transportation. We just launched a damn satellite to go where? Out in space station someplace. Did you see that thing go off from Florida? It lit up the whole damn sky all the way to Georgia. You can't tell me that this country can't replace that stinking rotten oil gasoline engine with some type of alternative energy source that'll guarantee these people that are allegedly going to be unemployed into a new manufacturing system. That's what I'll give $25 billion for. I'm not giving them $25 billion to reduce the size of the damn Hummer. Let's go to Irv. Will GMAC get money from the $700 billion bailout since it is a financial institution, plus the new $25 billion for the autos? Tom from Florida. Tom, I don't know, and that's why there's no transparency in this. I heard Maxine Waters, who was not my favorite congressman from California, she said, how dare you want $25 billion on top of the $250 billion and not tell us what you're going to use it for? Are you It's like giving your kid a credit card and say, here, go out and spend. I don't want to know what you're buying. It's none of my business. You go use the credit card, eat candy, eat at McDonald's, go get cancer, go get cholesterol, go get... This is insanity. I don't want any son of a bitch giving my tax dollars to anybody unless I know where the hell it's going. And when those big three were asked, how do you expect to repay that money back? They said, hopefully the economy will turn around and hopefully we'll be able to reimburse the taxpayers. Pal, that answer ain't good enough for me, so screw you. Thank you very much. Let's go to, what do you think of the fair tax, Anton of Florida? Anton, first of all, a fair tax is like being a little pregnant. There ain't no such thing as a fair tax. An equitable tax is what I proposed for years, and that is a national sales tax. There will be no income tax. There will be no personal tax. There will be no capital gains tax. As it is, the tax laws are, quote, written with, quote, loopholes. Baloney. There's no such thing as a loophole. When that bill is drawn up, it is drawn up in favor of the lobbyists that paid these guys to put that loophole in there. Endowments would be eliminated. Walter Annenberg and the ilk of the Rockefellers would not be able to take billions of dollars out of the tax free and end up with tax-free endowments. Walter Annenberg, big man, $10 million to Drexel University. Now that $10 million ought to be in circulation and invested, Walter, and you pay taxes on it. 1913, they removed all the rich from the tax liabilities and put it on the back of the poor suckers like you and me. So a fair tax would be that everybody pays taxes, but you pay it on consumption. The drug dealer that buys the car has to pay a sales tax on the car. Right now, the drug dealers don't pay income tax. It's just screw. The politicians don't pay income tax. Gentleman just gave me a list tonight of all the people in Philadelphia who don't pay real estate tax. $24 million Mayor Nutter is looking for. But if they went out and bought something, they would pay, let's have a 17%. I figured at the time with Billy Tauzin of Louisiana, when Billy and I sat down with his people, we came up with 17% sales tax across the board on anything you buy. but you would get your gross pay would be your net pay. There would be no taxes taken out of your pay. So you pay tax on every item that you buy. Then everybody, crook, drug dealer, gun dealer, thief, murderer, anybody who buys anything would contribute to the tax. And the guy that buys the most with the most money pays more taxes than the guy who doesn't. Poor people who buy one pair of shoes pay 17% tax. A guy who buys 30 pairs of shoes pays 17% tax on the 30 pair of shoes. So the rich would pay more under a national sales tax because they consume more. It would also eliminate something that really pisses me off. You want to talk about unfair. 18% of the American people of 300 million, 18%, now we're probably up to about 20%, use the airports, use the airlines. 80% of the 300 million people who are taxpayers subsidize the airline industry, when only 18% of the country uses that facility. Yet take a look at what it costs the 18% of the taxpayers of America to subsidize the transportation system that is privately owned and sets their own rate. Now, if the taxpayers are going to subsidize the airlines, the United States government should own that airlines and regulate it as the cheapest possible, with the best security, with the best maintenance possible. Other countries, Air France owns Air France. France owns Air France. Britain owns their airlines. Israel owns El Al. Those planes are safe to fly, and there's no damn crap about losing luggage and everything else. But all of the people of those countries enjoy the benefits of it because their government owns it. They not only pay the freight, but they enjoy the revenue from it. The airline industry has other industries in this country which a minimum amount of people use, where the biggest percentages are subsidizing them. So there's a lot of areas under this, quote, fair tax system. Anton of Florida, thank you. I'm Irv Homer. Once again, we've been broadcasting from irvhomer.com. The website is www.irvhomer.com. Email is evilirv@irvhomer.com. And once again, this package is put together by RGH Computer Services, and one of the things they're specializing in now is protecting the security of your computer motherboard and fatherboard and cousin board and your dog's board and all the boards that you've got in your computer. They know how to secure those things. Once again, their telephone number is 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685. And once again, thank you for listening. Don't forget, December the 1st, yours truly will be on WBCB 1490 AM starting at 1 o'clock with a different type of program. I can't make a promise like that. I'll see you the next time.
Friday night.
And Friday night, incidentally, Friday night's show will be aired after 10 p.m. because I have to go out and party Friday night. I'll tell you all about it on Friday's show. Till then, I'll see you.